The Tyrant, the Watcher, the Guiding Hand. Good evening, the Arcane Detective here. Today's case file is on Union. Union is the galactic and hegemonic government of most humanity, whose capital is on Cradle, formerly known as Earth. In the time of 5016 U, Union holds humanity together with three levels of power: blink gates, the Omninet, and mana. Blink gates allow for faster-than-light travel through blink space and connects Union's core worlds together. What blink space also allows for is the Omninet, a data-sharing network that connects every device to one another, allowing for not only faster-than-light travel, but also faster-than-light communication. And mana is the galactic currency of Union, and allows for interstellar trade on an unprecedented scale, especially considering humanity numbers in the trillions. However, Union could not hold its grip on power without the resources from the Karakin trade barony, which is why the trade baronies are sometimes called the fourth level of power for Union. To tell the history of Union, we're gonna have to go all the way back to the beginning. Also note that due to the fall, dates before the beginning of Union are tough to pin down. Hence, these times are notated as BU, or before Union, with a circa or C, which are estimates, while U, or Union era, notations starting on founding day 0U, are more concrete. Before Union, circa 6000 to 1 BU. Circa 6000 BU, the Apollo, the first of the 10, which were a series of massive generation ships, departs for an identified Gaia world. Circa 5800 BU, the Apollo would confirm landfall on the planet Caracas and establish a colony. The subsequent launches of the next 9 ships would begin thereafter. Circa 5000 BU, catastrophic ecological collapse marks the end of the Anthropocene epoch via mass extinction and climate change. Historians typically identify this point at which the fall became inevitable for old humanity. In circa 4900 BU, the last of the 10, Ayet, departs for the stars. The time period of circa 4900 BU to 150 BU would be a dark age for humanity, with the total human population going from a peak of 15 billion to less than 500,000. All contact with the 10 ceases. Then, in 150 BU, the discovery on Cradle of Mastiff A, the first of several pre-fall vaults, prompts a global societal rejuvenation. Additional vaults would be identified using data preserved inside them. This would lead to the nations on Cradle to race to control them, culminating in 53 BU when the Little Wars began, a conflict fueled by the discovery of the vaults, which would start out as a regional conflict, then escalated into a global war. The Foundation Period, 0 to 2000 U. In 0U, the conclusion of the Little Wars led to the founding of Union and the establishment of the First Committee of Union, FirstCom, which was retroactively named by Second Committee. In 1400 U, long-range communication systems are reactivated, enabling for the recovery of countless archived Fall A's SOS transmissions. The Union Space Program, USP, was announced shortly thereafter. A USP expedition would land on Cradle's moon, Luna, in 1430 U, and there reactivate ancient installations, including the Theseus shipyard. In 1450 U, the first Neolite class interstellar ships, based on plans preserved in the Mastiff vaults and built using the Theseus shipyard, are launched, seeking Gaia worlds identified in legacy star charts. In 1998 U, the USP Anthem, a near-light C.8 vessel associated with the Boundary Garden mission, reports first contact with distress beacons from 2 of the 10, the Ryla and the Armstrong, and those descended from their original crews. who would become the Onic peoples, organized under the On acumen. It should also be mentioned that in the time period of 1700 to 1999 expansion within Cradle and the Sol system in general takes place. Union would mount expeditions across the worlds and moons of the system, repopulating old stations, installations, and colonies. During 2000 the Oracle Chorus installation is discovered under the Valles Borealis of Mars. The installation is reactivated, and the five voices, bicameral machine minds capable of predicting the future with near-perfect precision, are identified. This creates the forecast/galactic simulation, aka GALSIM. The first expansion period, 2001 to 2997 Over the time of 2001 several old human colonies are discovered beyond Cradle, some derelict, others inhabited. The Union Administrative Department, UAD, is created to oversee interstellar expansion efforts and the reintegration of all rediscovered enclaves. In 2800 Union would make first contact with the new Federation, which later became the Karakin Trade Baronies. During the year of 2880, diplomatic friction between the Onic peoples and Union colonies in Boundary Garden leads to the First Distal War. Hardline anthro-chauvinist elements in Union launch Piston 1, a mass shotgun-style kinetic strike towards Onic space. The first committee is dissolved, replaced by the second committee. It should also be noted, in the period of 2885 and 2998 the First Union-Karakin War would take place, during which Union would win the Battle of Canalis Void. However, Union would not launch an invasion of Caracas and would retreat. The Neo-Anthropocene period, 2998 to 3199 During the course of a forecast iteration in 2998 the five voices manifest Monist 1, also known as Ra. Monist 1 is retroactively classified as the first non-human person, or NHP. In 3000 Monist 1 ascends, bringing about the Deimos event, the complete disappearance of Deimos from known space. The study of paracausal science becomes possible. The disparate ships, shuttles, and force organizations of the USP are reorganized into the Union Navy. 2 years later, in 3002 the first contact accords are signed in negotiations with Monist 1 following the Seeds of Mars. The concept of non-human persons is defined and applied to the anomalous machine minds left behind by Monist 1. The shackling process is also developed to constrain NHPs. Later in 3007 the new Prosperity Agreement would be signed between Union and the Karakin Trade Baronies. Union would expand and rebuild Karakin infrastructure, while the baronies would produce all of the raw materials Union needed. Union also gave the Dawnline Shore, which is a colonial expansion area, to the Karakin Trade Baronies. From the period of 3130 to 3200 blink space is identified in Pierce. The technology to create blink fields is developed, and the first blink station is built. The UAD is dissolved and replaced with the Union Colonial Mission, or UCM. The second expansion period, 3200 to 4599 During the entirety of the second expansion period, from the period of 3200 to 4599 Second Com begins a massive Union-wide colonization and expansion effort throughout the Orion arm of the galaxy. The Blink network is grown through rapid construction of gates, and billions of colonists are sent out to tens of thousands of worlds over this time. This represents the single largest movement of human life in recorded history. However, two events during this time period would lead to the downfall of Second Com. The first being the Hercynia crisis, which was a genocide of the Gregorians, which lasted from 4500 U to 4560 U. During the course of the conflict, the efficiency of hard suits and mechanized chassis, or mechs, is demonstrated. Union State Manufacturer, General Massive Systems, begins a galaxy-wide production of mechanized chassis. Along with mounting discontent with the Great Expansion and the growing need to address Piston 1 and the absolute criminality of the Hercynia crisis, boil over into widespread revolution on Cradle and some of the galactic core. Union is gripped by civil war from the period of 4560 U to 4591 U. The Third Committee period, from 4591 U to 5016 U. From the period of 4591 U to 4600 U, the remaining Central Committee members of SECCOM agreed to terms of surrender in 4591 U. A new stable government was formed in 4600 U, the Third Committee, or Third Com. The Union Colonial Mission is also immediately dissolved, and the Union Administration Department is reconstituted and expansion is halted. And in 4630 U, Harrison Armory and the Carrican Trade Baronies engage in the interest war. Union acts as a neutral party, ultimately securing peace. Harrison I then returns to Cradle and faces justice in exchange for the armory's continued sovereignty, and the trade baronies agree to become a member state of Union. 16 years before the present day, in 5000 U, the presence of an Onyx Crusade fleet in Boundary Garden is confirmed. For the first time, a blink gate is lost to hostile state accents, and the Second Distal War begins. And, of course, 5016 U is the present year. In the present year of 5016 U, it is the era of Third Committee, which is, of course, the third iteration of Union's Central Committee. Third Com, as it is often called, is a rejection of Second Com's anthrochauvinist ideology. However, there are still remnants of Second Com's ideology in both the Central Committee and the larger Union government as a whole, mostly focused in the Union Economic Bureau. The following is the different factions in Central Committee during the present day. The Interstellar is the leading and founding coalition, being 15% of the Central Committee. The Interstellar's ideology is that of the three utopian pillars, which is the political ideology of most metropolitans. In terms of galactic politics, the Interstellar is a moderate left party, with an adherence to the three pillars that has been somewhat in name only. The New Solidarity Coalition has often said that the Interstellar gives way too many concessions to the right-wing Fourth Column and New Humanity Front parties. The Fourth Column is led by the Prime Baron of Caracas, Kara Bem, who has a vast amount of sway over most of the Fourth Column's members, so much so that it is often called the Caracan Column. The party's ideology is right-wing in nature, but it is also non-interventionalist as well. The coalition advocates for economic expansion across core and diasporan space. What this means in practice is a liberal economic policy, privatization of services, and a curtailment of some departments' enforcement capabilities. Before the birth of the New Humanity Front, the Fourth Column had 20% in Central Committee, though the party has declined in membership while the New Humanity Front continues to expand. The New Humanity Front is a far-right coalition with ties to the Fourth Column. However, with fighting in the Dawnline Shore increasing, the New Humanity Front left the Fourth Column. This is mostly due to the fact that the New Humanity Front is led by the representatives of Harrison Armory, the Forward Progress. Besides advocating for rapid colonial expansion, the party also wants an end to certain transhuman and post-human prohibitions that were made during the First Contact Accords. The New Humanity Front also wants a decentralization of Union's government into a more federal system. Critics of the coalition say that it is nothing more than a front for Harrison Armory's anthro-chauvinist ideology, which it is, but that's besides the point. It should also be mentioned that the New Humanity Front and the New Solidarity Coalition are often at odds with one another, so often to a point that there is open fighting between the two on constituent worlds. The New Humanity Front also holds 10% of SecCom's representatives. The New Solidarity Coalition is a far left coalition made up of metropolitans and diasporans who are unhappy with the Interstellar's lack of action when responding to violations of the utopian pillars. So they are in an uneasy alliance with the Interstellar and the Verdant social arc. There are some differences in policies within the new Solidarity Coalition, such as diplomacy with certain corpo states, the Onic problem, and questions regarding the Boronic houses and Harrison Armory. The new Solidarity Coalition also has many ties to the Department of Justice and Human Rights and to the more radical administrators. They make up 15% of Central Committee's representatives. Another coalition that holds 15% in Central Committee is the Verdant Social Arc, which was an early offshoot of the Interstellar. What started off originally as an anti-colonialist front during Second Com's reign is now a moderate social democratic coalition. The party is more extreme than the Interstellar, but less radical than the New Solidarity coalition. The remainder of Central Committee is made up of independents, numbering at 5%, but has risen to 7% in previous elections. The largest of Union's departments, the Union Administrative Department, or UAD, is responsible for sending administrators across the galaxy to Union's client states, of which there are many. Administrators, with their NHP companions, act as liaisons to these worlds and work to integrate these societies into Union. The UAD also has the ident registration service, which is used by mech pilots. The Union Naval Department, or UND, which is usually just called the Union Navy, has many flagged capital and supercapital ships. However, the smaller ships come from Union subject states through the Naval Department Auxiliary Program. These ships usually come from worlds where Union Navy designs can be produced. Naval liaisons are also sent to these worlds to guide these states in production, training, and theory of Union naval doctrine. The Department of Justice and Human Rights, or DOJ/HR, often called the New Division, not only due to the recent creation of the department, but also due to the youth of its personnel. The DOJ/HR's mission is to identify where Union's utopian pillars are being violated and intervene on a case-by-case basis. The Department of Justice and Human Rights has two different types of missions. Critical Assistance Missions, or CAMs, where the pillars are being directly violated, and universe building missions for less severe violations. The former is taken on by New Division Liberator Teams, or LTs, who are professional strike and support teams. These teams specialize in infiltration and agitation, or direct confrontation, depending on the situation. The LTs are also expected to deploy for a long time, to be able to not just liberate these communities, but help transition them into stable political states. Universe building missions are for any violation that doesn't require an immediate response. Violations that are still harmful, but can be dealt with through Union soft power. It should also be noted that due to the nature of the DOJ/HR's work, the department has the power to deputize naval and administrative personnel. The Union Science Bureau is the administrative body for universities, public schools, think tanks, and other educational and scientific institutions. The USB is also famous for their far field teams, FFTs, often called Rangers due to their Ranger-class near-light ships. The Union Economic Bureau tracks and adjusts the value of mana evaluates consumer goods, and has some jurisdiction over the Omninet and Blink network. The UEB also serves to regulate and legitimize the galactic standard for manufacturers and corpo states. One of the main ways the UEB does this is that it has several advisory positions on the board of directors for General Massive Systems. The UEB is also in charge of regulating the corpo states, and in fact, it was the Union Economic Bureau under Second Com that charted the first corpo states, recognizing their sovereignty over land and product. The Union Economic Bureau often clashes with Central Committee, as many in the Bureau hold ideas sympathetic to the anthropocentrist revival ideologies. Under the UEB is the Union Omninet Bureau, whose mission is to ensure the Omninet is spread across the galaxy in a way that is free, convenient, and accessible. The Bureau of Colonial Administration is one of the three departments that comes from the breaking of the Union Colonial Mission, the other two being the DOJ/HR and the UAD. The responsibility of the BCA is to grant and maintain colonial licenses, set colonial priority zones, manage private charter licensing, and is the first court for colonial disputes. The Union Bureau of Orbital and Non-Terrestrial Management specializes in the management of orbital and non-terrestrial habitats. Go figure. However, this also includes blink gates as well, and the security and aid services on said non-terrestrial stations. The UBO/NTM also is the court for disputes concerning non-terrestrial habitats and stations in both interstellar and non-local space. The Union Bureau of Orbital and Non-Terrestrial Management has two subordinate bodies, which are the Office of Interstellar Transportation, OIT, and the Office of Cartography and Universal Positioning, or OCUP. The Office of Interstellar Transportation is responsible for managing, planning, and maintaining the entirety of the Blink network, as well as the installation of Blink gates and the structuring of Safe Passes code for Blink travel. The office also sets safety standards for ships and is the primary court for cases involving temporal complexities, such as cases concerning subjective/real AIDS and death, and interstellar shipping disputes. The Office of Cartography and Universal Positioning is responsible for surveying and mapping visible space, maintaining specific records of interstellar influence zones, and updating and revising local space sovereignty and a myriad of other tasks related to the making of maps and charts. Union has two off-the-book entities, which is Forecast/Gaussum and the Union Intelligence Bureau. Forecast/Gaussum is responsible for see case file for more details. The Union Intelligence Bureau is Union's Black Ops and Deniable Asset Group, which does all of the activities that any intelligence service would do. What is most interesting is that Central Committee only has an advisory oversight role to the UIB. The ultimate decision making is in the hands first of Galsim, then the Union Intelligence Bureau itself. Though the Union of today is defined by the readoption of the three pillars, Union for a long time was defined by anthropocenism, an imperial, fascist, and Earth-first ideology. However, when the revolution in the core worlds happened, ThirdCom was established. The three pillars are now Union's ruling ideology, which are the following. 1. All shall have their material needs fulfilled. 2. No walls shall stand between worlds. And 3. No human shall be held in bondage through force, labor, or debt. In Union space, there are three groups of people: metropolitans, cosmopolitans, and diasporans. Metropolitans are people who live on core worlds, and whose lives are defined by the three pillars. Union's ideal of a utopia is actually lived by metropolitans, whose needs are met and can travel through the blink gates, going from world to world. And due to not having money, as a traditional society would, Metropolitans trade in culture, science, friendship, and numerous other non-monetary ways of exchange. Metropolitans, like diasporans, are a diverse group, with many different faiths, cultures, genders, and societal structures. Cosmopolitans and diasporans are on the frontier of union, and while diasporans are on many planets that dot the Orion Arm, as well as their stations, cosmopolitans are born and live on near-light spaceship vessels, traveling through space with no home besides the ship or flotilla that they are a part of. Due to the nature of their travel, cosmopolitans operate in two different times: subjective and real time. Subjective is the time a cosmopolitan experiences, while real time is how much time passes in the galaxy. This makes cosmopolitans seem like eternal beings in both metropolitan and diasporan lore, and means that the only other people they can connect to is other cosmopolitans, leading to cosmopolitans to have a history and culture of their own that is just as deep and complex as you would find on any diasporan world. Metropolitans are defined by their core world status, and cosmopolitans by their transient nature. Diasporans are defined by how they are on the fringes of Union control. Union's goal of a utopia is not yet realized for these people, whether it is on a backwater colony or in a city of millions. Diasporans are a diverse people with history, society, and knowledge of Union that varies from planet to planet. It should also be noted that diasporan worlds have little contact with Union itself, unless, of course, one of the three pillars are being violated. What connects these three disparate groups together is the OmniNet, which is a galaxy spanning network that connects all devices together. How this is done is a bit unclear, however, it does work using the same technology that the blink gates use. General Massive Systems is not a corpo state in the traditional sense, as it is somewhat an arm of Union itself. GMS was founded on Cradle during the first expansion period and has enjoyed a lengthy partnership with Union. GMS is the galactic standard for the galaxy in terms of products, and as said before, the Union Economic Bureau holds some positions on the board of GMS, making the corporation another tool in Union's soft power capabilities. Mana was originally developed during Second Com's reign. Control of mana is run by the Union Economic Bureau. The actual price of mana fluctuates depending on the world, as complex algorithms take into account the past, present, and future economic output when determining the worth of mana for a world. Union classifies their space in co-concentric rings, or originating out from the Sol system. There are three rings/lines, named after mountain ranges on Cradle, which are the Sol/Andes line, Ring 1, the Rocky Mountain line, Ring 2, the Calhoun line, Ring 3, the Ural line, Ring 4, the Atlas line, Ring 5, the Himalayan line, Ring 6, the Attil line, Ring 7, the Carpathian line, Ring 8, the Sierra Madre line, Ring 9, the Karakorum line, Ring 10, the Cascade line, and Ring 11, the Adamantine line, with the Adamantine line being the current edge of Union space. Cradle is the capital of Union, which is located in the Sol system, though the Sol system itself is often called Cradle. The galaxy, and by extension Union, stands on a knife's edge. The rise of Harrison Armory, the politics of Throne Karaka, and the start of the Second Distal War proves this. No one knows how this knife will fall, but there will be consequences regardless. The survival of Union is not certain, nor is the realization of its utopian dream for humanity. The future of Union will be decided by uncounted choices that are made across the galaxy. The most important choices will be made by those pilots known as Lancers. Oof, that was a long one. I hope it was worth being stuck on a penal colony for 500 years. Well, that's besides the point. I hope you all have a good day. I have been the Arcane Detective, and as always, good evening.